Welcome back to the week 2 version of the recap pod here on the Transfer Portal CFB, brought to you by No Context CFB. Crazy weekend of college football, and with me, no better way to talk about this with our regional Texas fan, uh, Adam. Adam, how you feeling, man? Is Texas back?
I think so. It's hard to it's hard to really feel bad, speak for all. That Monday morning, it kind of just sets in. You don't want to linger on it too long. I'm not gonna linger on it too long, but it was a good Saturday.
Yeah, it was a great day, great game for sure. Uh, it was a very anticipated matchup. Obviously after what happened last year with those two teams going at it in Austin. You know, you could very easily say that Texas, without an injured quarterback, when he was getting hurt, they might have won that game. So there was definitely a lot of hype coming into this one, and it definitely it the hype was warranted. I mean, it was just a lot of I was a little scared. This whole idea of like Nick Saban and it's Nick Saban. Oh, it's Nick Saban. This was a talk all offseason. Like, oh, I'm not worried about Alabama. It's Nick Saban. Nick Saban is going to be upset. Nick Saban was mad of what David Pollock said at halftime at the end at the national championship game. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and then he just let this team, his former coordinator, come in to his building and beat him. And it wasn't. I mean, it was close early, but it really like towards the end, it was Texas. Texas dominated that game. A lot of penalties and mental mistakes by Texas kind of kept Alabama in it early, but it wasn't very particularly close when you really look at it. The play on the field was not. Texas handled that game pretty well. Is that how you felt as well?
Yeah, it felt a lot like how it did last year, where you think like we have them on the ropes. We just gotta finish the game, and I I'm not surprised about how dominant we look because we have a really good team. I don't want to overreact and say that Bama is gonna be horrible because I don't think they will be. I think Texas is just really good this year, but it pretty much went how I thought it could go. I thought if we were able to hit the deep ball like we did, um, then Bama's going to be in trouble because their offense really isn't built to score like that. I think.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it's different when you don't have a generational quarterback under center. I mean, for a while there, Alabama had a good run with Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, all first round picks. Or Jalen Hurts was like a second round pick, but obviously, we know what he's doing in the NFL. So, um, yeah, you don't have that anymore. And like I said, this talk of oh, it's Alabama, they'll figure it out, and it didn't work out. Uh, so I think now you can kind of say that it's as much as, and this might come back to haunt me for saying this, but nobody's scared of Alabama. Nobody's scared of playing Alabama. You used to have to play Alabama. You see Alabama on your schedule, and you piss down your leg because you have to play Nick Saban and this Death Star, program who's just annihilates everybody that they see, especially at home. And it doesn't matter what kind of season you're having, they're going to humble you. And we've seen it in the last few years. Starting in 2021, with they lost to that loss to Texas A&M, that game-winning field goal in 2021 against Texas A&M, and obviously the loss in the national championship, to Georgia, which was that one big, I feel was kind of like that the dam was broken at that point when Nick Saban finally lost to an Alabama assistant. That was like a big talk at the time. And then last year they could have had 4 or 5 losses easily. They won a couple really close games. They lost the two they lost were their losses were close too, but their wins were some of those wins were very, very close where they could easily had 4 or 5 losses. And now this year, you start your season out. you know, obviously last week Middle Tennessee State, no, it doesn't really count, but you go into your first big game of the year and you kind of have that performance, you know, against that team. Uh, another Alabama assistant in Steve Sarkisian, whose offense is just, you know, he's an offensive mastermind. He's always been a great offensive, you know, coach and a great offensive coordinator. And when with talent, or when he has legitimate talent, there's the things he can do. And it showed last night when you have a quarterback like Quinn Ewers. And shout out AD Mitchell
It's your
as a
guy.
lot. That's my boy, man. AD Mitchell, look, man. AD Mitchell, I know he transferred out, and there's certain players where they transfer out and you kind of don't care for it. But AD Mitchell is responsible for breaking Georgia's, you know, natty championship record. He balled out with Georgia. He left to Texas to be with his family, which I don't blame one bit. And I hope he balls out for Texas, and I hope he continues doing what he does. But he's a Bama killer. If I'm an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, I have nightmares of AD Mitchell every time I close my eyes at night. So
Did you see when he scored the touchdown, the second one? What he said
yeah,
to them?
yeah, he's like, remember me, or
Yeah,
something
I
like
loved
that.
it.
Yeah,
I
that was that.
loved it.
That's amazing. Yeah, good for him. Good for him to you know, have that mindset in that moment.
So
That
I
was
have a question for you though. As a
yeah,
You're a Georgia fan, right?
yeah.
Like we've
See the
seen, you kind of mentioned
trophy.
we've seen Alabama lose. We never seen them lose like this, right? Like in the fourth quarter, with 8 minutes left when Texas got the ball, Sark is an amazing play caller. Everybody knows that, right? He just said we're just gonna run the ball. We're gonna beat you up in the trenches, and you're not gonna stop us. And that's what
And
he
they
did.
didn't.
He ran the ball. He just ran power, maybe a trap, stop us. When you see that, do you still think that Alabama is Georgia's biggest threat, or do you see somebody else in the SEC?
I mean, I don't. I really don't. Because and it's early, right?
Yeah, it's only week two.
It's only week two, so there's a lot of football to be played. Um, but the SEC West specifically, I mean, the teams that they have to play this year. I mean, you can look at a lot of those teams in the SEC West, and I mean, you have LSU, Ole Miss. There's a lot of guys, a lot of teams in that conference that are really, really good, especially. And then at that point, you know, you have to get to the SEC West, and then you still have to play the SEC championship game, which, you know, it's the signs are pointing to being Georgia still, but it's still early. But I mean, I mean, you got Mississippi State. I'm not worried about Mississippi State, but you got Ole Miss, LSU, who obviously they lost to Florida State, but you know I mean, they're still very, very good. Jane Daniels is still very, very good. You know, you've had two close games against Texas A&M the last couple of years. You know, Texas A&M didn't look very good this past weekend, but they played you close, and you play them in College Station this year. So I don't know. I mean, at this point, I still think LSU is the biggest threat in the SEC to Georgia. Uh, but I don't know. I mean, it and it's to this day. I just said that nobody's scared of Alabama anymore, but you can easily see Alabama winning out the season and are winning out the rest of the year, and they're back in it in the FC Championship game, and all this conversation is mute, and it doesn't matter because they do what they do always. But yeah, I mean, you play Ole Miss, you're at Mississippi State, at Texas A&M, you play Tennessee, who's a top 10 team. Um, I mean, they're ranked 11th right now, but they're a top 10 team. They showed what they did last year, and you know, they're still very, very good. They're still supposed to be very good. You play LSU, um, so yeah, you play Kentucky this year, who it's not. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of opportunities there for Alabama to continue to falter, but yeah, like I said, it's still early. A lot they have those three quarterbacks, Alabama. So if Milroe isn't the answer at quarterback for them, they have, you know, they have options. And if anybody's not scared to make that type of decision, it's Nick Saban. He did it in the
True.
biggest stage in the national championship game, and it paid off for him. So there's no saying he can't do it again. But as of this moment on September 11th, 2023, uh, yeah, I don't think Alabama is at this point is any threat to Georgia. I could easily see them losing 3 or 4 games, but I could easily see them winning out and being right there in Atlanta at the end of the season. So there's a lot of football to be played, but um, they definitely showed that you do not have to be scared to play Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. So uh, yeah, it's we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So
Should be
uh,
interesting.
yeah, definitely. It'll definitely be interesting what's going to happen next. So, uh, but yeah, but moving on, there's a lot of big statements that were made this past weekend. Um, what would you say? What was the most impressive to you? What stood out to you? What was your biggest impression of this past weekend?
Um, I'm gonna stay away from Texas in all of these because I don't want to be a homer.
Yeah.
But I think the most impressive thing I saw was Shador Sanders and the way that I know he's a good quarterback, right? He's a 4-star recruit, but
Right.
how he's slicing up these defenses was so impressive for me. The way he's able to roll to his left, show off his arm strength, his accuracy, he looks like an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
And most people, I admit, I didn't watch a lot of Jackson State, so I didn't see that. But
Hmm.
when you watch him out there, he makes it look so easy. And for me, that's how I can tell if you're really an NFL quarterback. Like when I watched Johnny Manziel in college, he made everything look hard. It worked. It was amazing. It was fun to watch. But you watch Caleb Williams, he's just out there like he's just playing catch, and that's what Shador Sanders looked like. He uses roll left, casually throw the ball 30 yards on a rope in between two defenders. It was amazing. Shout out to him. He's proven everybody wrong. So it was very impressive.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Definitely. That Colorado's continuing to show uh, why hiring Deion Sanders was a big deal. And shout out to Colorado for making that type of, risk. I don't think any program does that. But Colorado, they had nothing to lose. You're 1-11. You have nothing to lose. Let's just throw a blank check at Deion Sanders and see what happens, and it's paying off so far. So, yeah, that was definitely impressive. But for me, the most impressive thing for me was Miami. Um, what they were able to do. There was a lot of talk last week, the week before about or leading up to this game about Miami and their home field advantage and that nobody goes to their games and you know um, all this other stuff playing against Texas A&M. And even a lot of Texas A&M fans I was seeing that were kind of talking about that and making fun of Miami and their fans and Miami showed out. I mean, they scored 48 points. Tyler Van Dyke was very impressive as well. I think he kind of made a statement there for himself, maybe to kind of throw his name into the Heisman conversation, at least this early in the season. Obviously, there's a lot of football left to be played, but Tyler Van Dyke, 5 touchdown passes, um, which is the I think he tied the no, so yeah, he's a first Miami quarterback to throw 5 touchdown passes against a AP top 25 team, which is incredible. You know, he obviously a lot of other players had more yards than him. He finished sixth in yards with 374, but 374 and 5 tutties was very impressive, very impressive. Uh, and against a top 25 team, and yeah, Miami's kind of been in a lull the last few years. They haven't really been very good. They've kind of been kind of just mediocre, and it's not the program that it once was. And this performance like Saturday kind of gives you a little bit of juice. It kind of invigorates everybody and gets everybody excited again. And um, we can talk about A&M as well, how how they've
I
been
mean,
terrible,
gosh,
but yeah,
that A&M roster, I don't understand. You have so much talent, you just can't figure
yeah,
it out.
yeah. It's like I made um the the comparison for people who watch baseball, who don't like or who don't watch baseball, is the New York Mets. How they had the richest offseason in MLB history. They spent the most money uh, to build the most expensive roster in MLB history, and they're fourth in the division, and they're obviously not making the playoffs, and they've traded everybody. It's kind of like that. It's crazy. It's sad what's going on in College Station, but I'm sure it's not sad for you as a Texas fan, but
I mean,
uh,
it is because I mean, it's feel bad for a lot of those players. I mean, I like them, like they're good players. I know,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's just gotta figure it out. I don't know.
yeah. Uh, yeah, the patience is running short, College Station, and it doesn't help to go to this to Miami, an ACC team who has not been very, very good the last few years, and they dropped 48 points on you. Uh, you know, um, yeah, it was close early. It was close early, but the second half it was all Miami. Um, and yeah, shout out Tyler Van Dyke. So that was the most impressive thing for me. Um, so and also not just impressive things, but a lot of surprising things happened as well. And you just talked about Colorado. That was my most surprising thing.
Was it?
Yeah, it was, and it's not because like it's not that I didn't believe in Colorado. Uh, I just, you kind of have that a lot of times in college football, you have the, you this great win, uh, and then you kind of go out the next week. Like you have this really cool upset, and then you go to the next week and you kind of just dud out, and it's you come back down to earth, and they didn't do that. They just continue to show uh, why they should be taken seriously, and it's they should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And you talked about it. Shedeur Sanders. He was making it look easy out there. Um, I think he has 900. I forgot what it was. 903 yards, I think, in the first two games, which is
Something crazy.
absolutely incredible. You have almost 1,000 yards passing in less than, and we're not even 3 games, a month into the season, which is absolutely incredible. Um, Travis Hunter is continuing to make plays on both sides of the ball. He played in all but 6 snaps, I think it was, this past weekend, which is there's no way he can sustain that, and not saying it in a negative way, but like for his sake and for his career in the NFL, because if he wants to play in the NFL for a long time, he can't do this for
Yeah.
3 seasons in the college and then go to the. I mean, if he does, then there's no question he's the greatest college football athlete of all time. But yeah, that was it's incredible to watch. I thought that maybe they might have some growing pains, and they're making it look easy. They're making it look fun. Um, that place was rocking. College game days going there next weekend.
Again.
Uh, yeah, so it's crazy. It's crazy. So that was really surprising to me. I did not expect that. I thought Nebraska was going to play a little bit better. I thought Matt Rhule was going to get that program back up and running, and through 2 weeks they're 0-2. And yeah, shout out to Colorado. They surprised me, but they're not surprising me anymore. So, what was your most surprising thing?
Yeah, let me touch on Colorado real quick. But like you said, I thought they were going to start. I thought they're going to come out and have a kind of a hangover, and they
Yeah,
did in the first half. They didn't score a touchdown until like it was 3 minutes left in the second half
yeah,
in the second quarter, and I was thinking, well, this is kind of what we expected. But man, they just turned it on, and I was just as surprised as you were. They turned it on quick. But for me, my most surprising was how bad Baylor is. Um,
oh yeah,
Coming into the season, that all they talked about how they were going to revamp the offense, revamp the running game. I talked to some people there, and they were really excited about what they had going, and they Baylor's whole stick when they were winning when they made a Big 12 championship. I think they made the Big 12 championship that year. Was we're going to hit you in the mouth. We're going to run the ball. You're not going to stop us. and they went away from that last year. It didn't work. They said we're gonna go back to it, and it just hasn't happened. They and I'm surprised, disappointed because I thought they'd be really good team this year, and they're not. But shout out to Oregon. Oregon looks for real. Not Oregon. Utah. Utah looks for real
Yeah,
for winning
yeah,
the two. I'm not gonna say tough games, but they weren't easy games without their starting quarterback. I mean, yeah, shout out to them.
yeah. No, yeah, yeah. That's a great point. And then, Baylor losing to Texas State last week,
Yeah,
uh,
this
which Texas State has not been in any conversation of college football ever. I mean, I don't think they've ever been ranked. They've never been to a bowl game. Shout out to them though. What GJ Kinney is doing over there at Texas State is pretty cool. To get them, kind of get that signature win. But yeah, no, that was definitely surprising for sure. Um, what about disappointed? What disappointed
for me, it was A&M's defense.
you? Yeah,
He also much I heard about. We all know A&M's offense it has problems, right? That's no
yeah,
secret. But their defense was supposed to be the thing that's going to carry them. That's all I heard all year. How many they have so many NFL players. They got all these great recruits on defense. They have the number one defensive lineman from 2 years ago, number two defensive lineman from 2 years ago, the number two defensive lineman from last year. It's all I heard was A&M's defense, and they just got absolutely steamrolled by Tyler Van Dyke in Miami.
yeah, yeah,
It's so disappointing to watch. As a Texas Longhorns fan, I did love it. I'm not gonna lie, you know. But as a football fan, like you want to come on, let's go. Like I want to see a good games. I want to be entertained. That was the game I was watching before I watched Texas game, and it was sad. It was sad to watch.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. There's no um there's no other answer than Texas A&M. I'm with you there. Um, that was very disappointing to watch, and what that program's done the last few years with that talent on the roster it's unexplainable. You can't explain it. You can't. It's unacceptable as a college football fan. It's unacceptable what they've done. I mean, they uh they fired Kevin Sumlin and you know uh, they fired Kevin Sumlin because they couldn't do what they're doing now. They couldn't get over the hump. They had very good seasons. They had great teams like Johnny Manziel and in those years, and they fired Kevin Sumlin because he could not get over that hump. And there's
I mean,
what's
they can't even
changed?
get up the hill right now.
Yeah,
Forget the hump
yeah,
at the bottom of the
exactly
hill.
right. Yeah, no, exactly right. They can't, and it's very disappointing. They shouldn't be like that with that roster. And like I said, their patience is running out uh, for that program, and changes will be made soon if things don't change. If they don't right the ship
You think so with that
quickly.
buyout?
I don't think it. I think at that point, there's a point where that doesn't matter anymore. And in this day and age, you have boosters. They can come up with the money. They can write that off. Um, but somebody else will pay that check. Let's just
Yeah.
put it that way. I don't think that the university won't have to worry about money coming in, and it's almost it might also be more beneficial financially to
Yeah.
to buy that out than
You start
that
winning, that money
contract
comes
out.
back.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Um, not to not make it, talk about the same couple games. I also want to shout out, or not shout out, but like negatively shout out Clemson. Um, you have that loss last week, and you come out this week against Charleston Southern, who, uh, sh- no disrespect to Charleston Southern, but they're not Clemson, and you're
They might be
leading.
now.
Yeah, you are in a basically a dogfight with them through the first half. You're only up by 7 at halftime, 24-17. They're really not doing a lot. There was a point there where you're down 14-7, and yeah, it just didn't look good. And this Clemson, you know, it's kind of similar to Texas A&M where, or no, I'm sorry, kind of similar to Alabama where this program who was once, they were always there, always in the playoff. They traded championships from 2017 to 2018. It was Alabama, Clemson were the champions, in the college football playoff. And look what happens when you don't have Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. And we see what DJ Uiagalelei is doing at Oregon State. He's
Man,
balling
he
out at
looks
Oregon
good.
State. And we thought that he was a problem last year. That DJ's the problem. They bench him uh uh for for Kid Klubnik, and they're having these types of performances. And like, look, you're gonna look at the scoreboard and say 66-17, is still a blowout. Like, yeah, it's still a blowout, but you're gonna do that. You're gonna blow them out. But to kind of have that lull, in the first half and not really look very good, and you lose last week. The way you lost to Duke last week, um, by 3 touchdowns, and not really do much on offense, and then you come out against Charleston Southern and not do much on offense for the first half. So 6 quarters of football, you don't really play as well as you're capable of playing. Those questions need to start coming up. Granted, they turned it around in the second half, and they blew them out of the water, but um, it was very disappointing to see that offense and that team, because uh, they shouldn't be that way. Um, it shouldn't be at Clemson. They should be continuing. Dabo Swinney should not have these types of struggles with
Mhm.
that program. So that was very disappointing to watch for me. Um, but yeah, with that sense, there's a lot of guys that stood out uh, this past weekend. One of them that I feel like it was the game of the week that nobody saw was Rice in Houston, and JT Daniels.
That's who I was
Shout out
gonna say. I was gonna
that
say JT Daniel.
shout out JT Daniels. Uh, what he did, for and a lot of people want to write him off and his career is over, and he's just kind of racking up NIL checks, and just withering, just finishing off his season with Rice, with this terrible Rice program, with their terrible stadium, as our boy Andrew likes to talk about. Shout out Andrew. Um, and JT Daniels, man, he balled out. He balled out. Uh, he was 28 for 42 with 3 touchdowns, and sure, they blew a 28-0 lead, but they were still able to win in overtime. And that might be the game of the year, and nobody watched it. I don't think anybody was talking about it on Twitter at all. Uh, but JT Daniels, shout out to JT Daniels. That's who stood out to me the most. What about you?
Well, mine's gonna be JT Daniels too. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stick with. I said I wasn't gonna be a homer, but now I had no choice. uh, I'm gonna go with Quinn Ewers. I mean, there was
Oh
so
yeah,
much talk about is he the guy? Is Arch is there? We want to see Malik. Can he get Texas, like you said, over that hump? And that game, that was the biggest stage. Saturday night football. Everybody's there. Well, a lot of people were in Colorado, but if you weren't in Colorado, you were there. Um, and he looked poised, calm. I didn't see in really one throw. I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" Just set his feet, hit the deep ball, which people said he couldn't do. That was a big thing coming in. Can he complete that deep pass? He did that. I mean, shout out to him. He proved everybody wrong. Granted, it's only week 2, so you got to keep it going. But I went and I rewatched every throw he took, and I, out of the 40, maybe 5, I thought were like, okay, he should have made a better throw.
yeah.
played amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he did. He balled out. Um, he did ball out. And like I said, I didn't want to be a homer either because I was gonna say AD Mitchell, as a
say
Georgia
it.
homer, but then I said JT Daniels, who was kind of George, but he doesn't count. He only started for Georgia for like 3 games, so he doesn't count. But but uh, my my uh, uh, my biggest takeaway for week 2, or my biggest takeaway for week 2 is that Texas is back, and that is my biggest takeaway for week 2 is that Texas is back. They finally have a team that can win championships, and it was always this type of game that they needed to win. I think I have a friend of mine who's a huge Texas fan. He was at he was at the Rose Bowl when they won in '05. He's a little older than us, so he was at the Rose Bowl when they won with the against USC, the national championship game, and that incredible game that they saw. And he said that he has not felt a win. He has not felt that good after a win since that game until this win against Alabama. He said that since that game, he hasn't felt that. He's like, even against he said when we beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, I didn't feel that way. And I went with him to the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. I drove 8 hours there, saw Georgia take that L, and drove 8 hours back in the same day, which is a story for another day. But he said like I didn't feel anything after that because it was just not, it was a bowl game. A lot of Georgia guys were out. It just really it didn't feel like a program changing win at the time, even though, um, they went up there on the stage and Sam Ellinger was like, "Hey, we're Texas, we're back." And, after getting the Sugar Bowl trophy, which was a great win. Obviously, anytime you win a New York Six Bowl it's always a big deal, but, the goal in college football isn't to win New York Six's bowl. This isn't, you're not in the group of 5. You're not, you know, Cincinnati or Houston or UTSA, where a New York Six bowl is the goal, and winning a New York Six game is the highlight of your year or the highlight of your program. You're Texas. You're the Texas Longhorns. Winning games against Alabama is what you should be doing. And yeah, and what a performance! They made a statement that game. They showed the world and the country that they're here and that they're back. Um, so they just have to keep doing it. And I would not be surprised if they go into they further down the line against Kansas State or Kansas or Baylor, one of these other games, and they have a dud and they lose one of these games, which it would not surprise me because they've done this before. When they beat Notre Dame a few years back, everybody was like Texas is back, and then what did they do? They lost to Kansas that. So they have to keep. They can't just. This cannot be the highlight of your season. This cannot be their their like. You have to keep. This is just the beginning. Like you can't just say, "Oh, we beat Alabama, we're good." Like, it's over. We can go back to losing to Kansas. Like, no, you can't do that. You have to keep winning. If you want to be taken seriously as a program, you have to keep winning. But still, like that was my biggest takeaway is that Texas is legit, and that was very surprising. It wasn't surprising to me, but the way they beat Alabama, it opened my eyes. I'm like shit, this team is really really good.
We're here.
Yeah, so that was my biggest takeaway. What about you?
For me, I'm gonna go complete opposite. I'm gonna pick a team I thought was legit that is not, and that is Texas Tech. Um, it's only week 2, but I'm beginning to. I might be selling Texas Tech stock. I was maybe one of their biggest supporters. I thought that team would be so good. They look terrible. Tyler Shough is terrible. The offense. I don't know what's going on with Joey McGuire up there in Lubbock, but it is not the team that many, not just me, but many people thought would be in the running for the Big 12 championship. Granted, they haven't started Big 12 play, so they have time to turn it around. But as of right now, um, I might be out. I might be out.
Yeah, yeah, tough times in Lubbock, and uh, got a lot of friends who are Texas Tech grads, and
Same.
they're very prideful. They love their team.
Hmm.
Um, you know, they tailgate at 7 in the morning for their noon kickoffs. I mean, it's 11 a.m. kickoffs here in Texas for us. So
It's a
yeah,
great school. It's a great
it-
school. I almost went there, but I'm
yeah,
on.
yeah. It's sad. It's sad to see. But yeah, no, you're right. That's a big deal. Um,
Really, the
but
whole state of Texas football is in shit. Is Texas and Rice, Texas State, those are the best teams. Everybody else is in
yeah,
shambles right now.
yeah.
What
No,
you
seriously.
doing?
Hey, don't
Oh, I
rule out
forgot
UTSA.
UTSA. You
Yeah,
got
UTSA.
UTSA. You got
They
UTSA.
got that big win against Texas State this past weekend, which is
Yeah, but
um
y'all lost to Houston. It's like,
that was tough. It was a close loss, but lost. That's 2 years in a row they lost to Houston, in a one possession game. Um, which is yeah, that was tough. That definitely was tough. But uh speaking of things, the biggest takeaways, what is the like when I was and I'm gonna be a homer here because I was really I'm trying not to be a homer. I really want to be
hey, we
more
support
broad,
it. I support it.
but the best thing I saw this weekend, we're gonna best and worst things that we saw this weekend. The best thing that I saw this weekend is Makai Muse from Georgia. Uh, this kid he looks, I don't know if you've seen the highlights, but this kid looks like when when they have those spring games and they let like the little kid like have it like a Make a Wish kid have like a touchdown and the whole team kind of just lets him score and
Yeah.
he's like 4 feet and just kind of just runs and they just let him score because it's fun, it's cute, and no disrespect to Mikhail Muse, but that's what he looks like out there on the field. This dude is like 5'9" or shorter than that. He's a walk on. He's a walk on receiver for Georgia, and he just balling. He's balling out, man. He had 3 catches for 27 yards. He took back, which isn't surprising, but he had a 69-yard punt return for a touchdown. He took back the opening kickoff like 60 yards into Georgia territory or into Ball State territory. Uh, and he's continuing to ball. I don't know what Kirby Smart does where he finds these walk on guys. These short, tiny walk on guys to turn them into stars. Saw with Stetson Bennett and now Mekhi Muse. He's all right. So I looked him up. So he's 5'8", 185 pounds. Like this dude
Yeah.
is tiny. He is
5'8",
tiny.
5'8",
5'8",
what,
185.
185? Yeah.
Like in football terms, he's tiny. Uh, you know, and he's just balling out, man. He has six. And last week he had a receiving touchdown as well, like he had like a 54-yard receiving touchdown, and then this past weekend he had a punt return for a touchdown, and then he had a couple of really good returns. He opened a kickoff, he took back, and he's just balling out. I mean, Lad McConkey's been out, he's been hurt. We're kind of growing pains you're you go through those changes you had in the offseason, losing offensive coordinator Todd Monken, losing Heisman finalist, two-time national champion Stetson Bennett at quarterback. So you have your offense is changing. You lose AD Mitchell. You saw what AD Mitchell's doing. He was he was Georgia's best receiver the last couple of seasons. And then you have guys like Mekhi Muse making these types of plays uh, early on. So that was the best thing that I saw this weekend. What about you?
Best thing I saw was Texas, not Texas, I'm sorry. USC's
Next.
offense. They look so good. And because they play late, I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen them, But that Stanford game, that offense looked, granted, it's Stanford, right? But still, I mean, it's just such a well-oiled machine. I think it was 50-3 at halftime. Like that's insane. Don't sleep on USC. Everybody else getting a lot of attention because people do this with Lincoln Riley teams. Really good offense, not a really good defense. It's just his thing, but it looked really good. I was so impressed with that offense. I wouldn't want to play them. Caleb Williams, I feel like he's kind of getting a little bit of, I don't want to say boulder fatigue, but it's just every day with him. But
I mean, they're playing at 1 o'clock in the morning every week, so no, I
too,
mean,
yeah,
nobody's
that's
up to
true.
watch them play. So
It's tough.
it's
It's
like,
tough. But if you get a chance, just sit down and watch them. Whenever they're in the early slate, sit down and watch them. They look damn good.
yeah, yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and which is funny because that was going to be the worst thing I saw this weekend was Stanford. I mean, Jesus Christ! Look, I know Stanford. You know, they've had their problems. You know, for a while. Um, they've had their issues since. I mean, pretty much since Andrew Luck was there. You know, yeah, they've had some decent teams, but they haven't been in the national spotlight quite a bit. And I mean, you win your first game of the year, a game again, another game nobody saw against Hawaii. You squeak out a 13-point win, which is not squeaking out, but it's Hawaii. Come on. Uh, and then you go to USC under the lights, prime time, which is bedtime for everybody else in the country. Uh, but and you're up, you're down 49-3 at halftime, which is just like it's just uninspired football. I know USC is really good, but you have FCS teams and Group of Five teams putting up better fights on other sides of the country. You know, you saw Tennessee struggling, against I don't even know who they played. Couldn't tell you who they played, but they struggled in the first half. You know, Georgia was tied 0-0 at the end of the first quarter against Ball State, and you have at the end of the first quarter, they were losing 21-0. Like you're a Pac-12 team, you're a Power Five team. I know USC is really good. I know Caleb Williams is a Heisman uh, Trophy winner and should be the Heisman favorite early on in the season. But like you got to put up a better fight than that, Stanford. Like, come on, man. Like,
For a
what is
Power
that?
Five team, that's sad.
Yeah, yeah,
That
exactly,
you're not taking your football program serious if that's
exactly
happening.
right. Yeah, how can you sell your program when you're playing, one of your in-state rivals and you're losing 49-3 at halftime? You know, the final score was 56-10. Uh, but if Lincoln Riley really wanted to, they would have put 100 on him easily. You know, it was just uninspired, just no. If you had trouble falling asleep last night, just watch or Saturday night, just watch Stanford. You should have could have turned on the Stanford game, watch Stanford football play, and you would have fallen asleep.
ACC
Uh,
football next year, huh?
yeah, yeah. If they're
That's
doing
where they're
this,
at.
exactly. If they're doing this to against USC, which obviously USC is going to be is they're a good team, but there are a lot of better teams in the ACC. Or similar teams at least, to USC that can easily do this to you on a weekly basis. So yeah, yeah. That was the worst thing I saw. What about you?
Worst thing I saw was not over the weekend. It was, I guess it was the weekend, not Saturday. It was Sunday. The AP poll, I think Liam talked about this. AP poll kicking off Tulane for losing a close game with their backup quarterback is insane. Like if you look at the score, they lost by what was it, 17? I think
Yeah,
they
but
lost by 17.
it wasn't
It
that.
wasn't that. It
Yeah,
was a 7 point game with like 3 minutes left. And Tulane was about to get the ball, but football happened and it happens like that. With their backup quarterback and we're knocking them out of the top 25.
Yeah,
I think that's a
yeah,
little.
it's
I don't
scoreboard
like
watch.
it.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of these voters just scoreboard watch. Like, oh, Tulane lost
Hmm.
uh by 17 points. Oh, okay, yeah, they're out of here. Yeah, yeah. It's the program carries weight. It's how Alabama they're still in the top 10 after losing. They lost by double digits, and they're still in the top 10.
Their
You know
loss
what
was
I mean?
worse than Tulane's.
Yeah, exactly. Their loss. If you really think about it, if you really look at it, through the X's and O's and watch the film, you could argue that Alabama's loss was worse than Tulane's. Michael Pratt was out. You don't have your starting quarterback. And you go to you go to Ole Miss, or actually no, you're hosting Ole Miss. They hosted Ole Miss, which is
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know how an SEC team is going to agree to go to a group of five program. That just shows that shout out to Lane Kiffin. That man is different, and I respect him for that. You think Nick Saban or Kirby Smart is going to be playing a group of five team on the road? Absolutely not. They say
Probably
you
not.
come play me. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That was yeah. The AP top 25 doesn't mean anything anyway. This first couple of games, a couple of weeks anyway. So it doesn't mean anything until no, at least November, at
Yeah.
the very least November. Uh, the first college football playoff ranking is released on Halloween, so that's when it matters. That's when you know who's good and who isn't. But
Well,
but
hopefully they
yeah,
watch the
but
games then.
yeah, hopefully they do
'Cause-
watch the games, because man, some of these AP vote, and they release the AP polls every week, like who how everybody voted for who.
Mhm.
I think I saw a couple. There was a guy, I think I saw a tweet. One of the reporters who votes on the AP poll had Texas behind Alabama still. I think they had Alabama at like 7, and they had Texas at 10 or something like that, that's absolutely ridiculous. Um, but that's pretty much a lot of things that happened this weekend. Um, we're turning along. I mean, it felt like forever for the season to start, and just like that, we're 2 weeks in. A lot of storylines to follow. Uh, but but yeah, we've still got a lot of football left to be played, so we're gonna keep an eye on it. Um, but any final words there, Adam?
Texas is back.
Yeah, hey, and it sure looks like it. Shout out Texas. Shout out Eddie Mitchell. Shout out Quint Ewers. He saw that Manning kid, lingering, and he said, "Nope, you're not gonna take this from me that easily, buddy." Uh, but yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys keep following us and keep looking. We got a lot of great content coming out all the time, at daily. These boys churn out content daily, and girls.
Follow the
Uh,
socials.
so follow the
Follow the
socials.
socials.
Yeah, definitely. T Portal CFB on Twitter. Our TikTok. Got to give my man Adam his flowers. He handles our TikTok, and they're just absolutely elite
Did you see
content.
the one I put out today?
I haven't seen it. No.
It was about Texas A&M. Go watch it. It's doing really well.
Is it? I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to. I'm gonna have to. But yeah, definitely check us out. Keep following us. Keep supporting. But other than that, we're out. Thank you for listening.
So.
We'll see you next week.